Welcome back to Legally Speaking with Berkley Oliver. I'm Josh.
I'm Amy.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about Medicaid and long-term care planning.
That's a scary one.
Everybody's favorite subject,
Nobody
right?
wants to talk about that, right?
Right? But, I'd like for people to just think to themselves, now, who is sitting there thinking, golly, I sure hope I get to go to a nursing home one day?
No, nobody is.
Right?
No one.
Right? So, having said that, that means a lot of people don't want to come talk to us about that issue.
Yes.
The bad news is not wanting to go to a nursing home or a long-term care facility does not necessarily mean you're never going to have to.
Yeah. As much as we may love our loved ones, sometimes we can't provide them the care that they need. That's why you have what we call skilled nursing care.
Something that we hear a lot, like, oh no, mom's never going to go to a nursing home. We're not going to let that happen. And I don't want to argue with people, right in our conference room. But what always occurs to me is like, there could be a medical situation where that's not going to be your choice. Yeah. And it's not that that's what you want or that's what you hoped would happen. But if someone has a severe stroke or has other medical needs where they need skilled nursing care, you may not be able to provide that.
Your grandmother had a severe stroke. And she was in a skilled nursing facility
for quite some time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And they provided her with great care.
Sure.
But it's something that you do want to think about, and a lot of the times we get people coming in, and they will have waited till the last minute, and like, oh, mom's got to go into the nursing home like next week. Okay, that's great.
And
you're going to pay.
So that's usually the issue, right? Is you can get mom into that facility, assuming they have a bed. That part won't be a problem. The next question. The more than $64,000 question. That'd be a rather dated figure, wouldn't it?
You were aging yourself.
I know, right? But the major question is, how are you going to pay for that long-term care facility?
Because what is the average right now in Kentucky? Somewhere around 10,000.
I usually tell people get ready for 7 to 10, and I have people that sit and laugh and say, try more like 12.
Yeah.
It depends greatly on exactly. Are you in? We're in Shelbyville, Kentucky, right? So we're kind of based on that. But we're close to Louisville. People have loved ones that are in Louisville facilities, Frankfort, Lexington, all these kind of different areas, and your mileage may vary on exactly what it costs.
Yeah.
It suffices to say. It's enough that if you're not independently wealthy, if you don't just have plenty of resources to pay that every month with kind of an unlimited amount, not an unlimited amount of income, but enough to pay like $10,000 a month.
Yeah.
If you don't have investments throwing that much off or income, it could really eat into a significant nest egg pretty quickly.
Yes. And we have a lot of people, they would like to. They've worked really hard. They've saved for a long time. They'd really like to leave something to maybe their kids, their grandkids. And if you don't have a plan for the possibility of Medicaid or skilled nursing care, that might not even be an option.
So let me jump in here, because that's the next thing is what are we talking about with Medicaid? And all the time people get confused with Medicare and Medicaid and what's the difference. And it's a huge difference. The words are similar, but what it does is really entirely different.
Medicare, the only way I can keep them straight in my mind is Medicare is health care.
Right.
Medicaid aids you in paying for skilled nursing care.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, people have know about like having like a medical card for Medicaid, and that is part of the Medicaid program. It's a shared state and federal program.
It's a tiny bit of what the greater
it's a little. That's right.
Program
that's right. But if you need long-term care Medicaid, and what people need that for is when they need a nursing home and they can't afford it anymore. Okay. Well, when can you not afford it? Medicaid looks at two things: your income and your assets.
Yep.
You're going to have to spend down to $2,000 in assets.
That's not a lot.
If it's a little different if you are married, you can save a little bit more. You can save usually half your assets up to $150, which means if you've got more than $300,000, you're not really saving half anymore.
Right. You're saving less than half. Yeah.
So that's something to consider. And the other thing, so anyway, that's the asset portion of it.
Yeah.
The $2,000 in assets. Then there's an income component of it as well. That part's very easy. If your income is over the Medicaid limit, it's changed every year. It's indexed for inflation and whatnot.
This year it's somewhere, and we're in Kentucky, so if you're in a different state, it's going to be different.
In 2025, it's right around $2,900 a month. But in any event, that's an easy fix. You can fix that the day before you go in the nursing home. With the right bank account and the right kind of a little trust that you use called a qualified income trust. You slough off the extent of that you have too much income. That's not a problem. The assets, though, to move assets out of your name,
Yes.
so that you have under $2,000 in time to apply for Medicaid and get granted
Yes.
Medicaid, so that you get government assistance to pay for your nursing home.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to plan out that. It's a 5-year look back period.
Yeah. And in 5 years, you can't have given your property away. So a lot of people say, well, I'll just give it to my kids. You can do that. And if you make it 5 years, that's grand.
It'll work. It will work. 5 years works. Yeah.
The one thing that we always are concerned about too is if you're living there and you still give it to your kids, maybe you retain what we call a life estate. You're allowed to live there for the term of your life. Mm-hmm. But maybe your kid ends up in financial trouble. Liens can attach to that property. That property could get foreclosed on. You could end up.
You could have a kid get sued. You could give something to your kid and they get sued and get a judgment lien against it, against them and any property that they have. So that's when we often use a Medicaid asset protection trust. Can a trust be sued? Well, for heaven's sake, anything can be sued anytime, anywhere, for any reason. But having said that, a trust cannot drive a car, so it's much less likely to get sued than an individual is. Right.
Yeah. And when we're talking about, Medicaid long-term care, what's that look like? What's a Medicaid asset protection trust do?
Well, ideally, if we start 5 years in advance, we're going to be able to move property into that trust. And when I say property, that could be real property, real estate. Could be investment accounts. You can move investment accounts in there. A little tricky with retirement accounts. Those have to be titled in the name of an individual. So that's a little trickier. But CDs,
things like that.
I would say here in Shelby County, what we see, we have a lot of agriculture. We have a lot of family farms. We have folks that have a lot of land, but not necessarily enough cash to have that flow of cash to pay $10,000 a month or so to a nursing home.
You may have $500,000 worth of land,
but it's not liquid.
You
can't do anything with it.
So what do you have to do to pay for the nursing home? You got to sell it. And people don't always want to do that. They've worked really hard. Maybe they inherited the land from their grandfather, their great-grandfather. They want to be able to leave that to their family. And by creating and putting it into a Medicaid asset protection trust, you have the ability that younger generations can enjoy that land.
Absolutely. And I think people ask all the time, and it's important to know, if you are married, so long as one spouse is living at your residence, it depends too. Like if you have farmland, do you have more than? Is it all one contiguous like homestead?
Right.
Okay. Is it like a house, contiguous land, or is it like a parcel?
Do you have 25 acres over here and 100 acres over here?
That's going to be that. The protection I'm about to mention for spouses is going to be different based on whether it's all one contiguous farm or you've got a parcel here and a parcel. Contiguous land next to your residence, Medicaid usually won't bother that so long as one spouse lives in the home.
Yeah.
Now, here's where the roll of the dice comes in. We don't know if the spouse that's living at home, referred to for Medicaid purposes as the community spouse, we don't know if or for how long they're going to remain at home. They could pass away. They could wind up needing skilled nursing care themselves. And this protection for that property that we're talking about, if they have to leave the home or they pass away,
then they lose that protection.
Then we're right back where we started with an individual, okay?
Yeah. And so it can be a little intimidating because, and I've had people tell me this, I don't want to give up control. You have to kind of give up control to do this type of trust.
Yeah, a Medicaid asset protection trust is. People all the time hear about when we talked in one of our other podcasts about revocable living trust. That means you can revoke it. You can put all of your things in it today, and tomorrow you can decide you're going to pull it all right back out. No problem. You can do that. With an irrevocable trust, you cannot do that.
Right.
You put it in there. You appoint a trustee to oversee it, and when it's in there, it's in there.
And it's not going anywhere.
And importantly, people say, well, I don't really want to do that. That is fair enough, but you've got to understand, for it to have that Medicaid protection, you can't be able to access it. If you could just raid the trust and pull all the land or property or whatever else out.
Medicaid's going to say, go do it.
Go get it.
Go
You can get it. Go get it.
We're not going to pay until you've liquidated all of these assets down to $2,000.
Because what you're essentially doing is you're requesting Medicaid pay your bill for the nursing home, right? And there's another common misconception that comes to mind. People will say, well, I don't want Medicaid to get my money. Medicaid is not going to get your money.
You don't ever pay Medicaid.
No.
You have to pay the skilled nursing facility.
That's correct. They just won't foot the bill.
Yeah. We're just not going to pick up the tab.
They're just saying, and people say, well, I don't have any money, and Medicaid won't do it. Medicaid's not going to get concerned that you have nobody else to foot the bill if you say you've given away things within the last 5 years. It's just going to be a rubber stamp. You know, if you've given away too much stuff, there's going to be a certain number of months they won't pay based on how much you gave away in that 5-year look-back period we talked about.
They call that a penalty. It's not, when we say penalty, it's not like a fine or anything like that. Yeah. It's just literally a number of months that they're not going to pick up the bill.
People hear penalty and think they have to write a check. No, they don't write a check. No. Medicaid just says we refuse to write a check during that time.
And two, like sometimes people are worried that Medicaid's going to come and take their home. And there is something called Medicaid asset recovery.
Estate recovery, yes.
Estate recovery. But that's usually not going to happen while you're in the facility. It usually happens after the person who is in the facility passes away.
The hard part is, again, if there's a spouse at home, it's usually covered. Now, if you're an individual and you're in a facility, generally you're going to be protected and probably not have any ramifications, probably for like 6 months. They won't even count that they won't count your primary residence as an asset. You might can stretch it out longer depending on doctor's notes and whatnot. But eventually what they'll do is they'll just say you have to sell it.
Yeah.
Medicaid will eventually say you're not, medically it's been determined you're not returning home.
Right.
So at that point they're going to want you to liquidate your residence and pay for your nursing care until you pay that down to $2,000.
And we don't have a crystal ball, so it's really, I mean, if we did, we wouldn't be doing this. We'd be doing something different.
Powerball time, man.
So I can't say if you're going to make it 5 years after you set up this Medicaid Asset Protection Trust. So what happens if, say, somebody sets this up and in 4 years they need a skilled nursing
And that
facility?
happens a lot, right? They set it up and we get close to the finish line and don't quite make it. Well, good news and bad news. Good news is all is not completely lost at that point, right? Bad news is it is going to cost something. If you're that close to 4 years, or excuse me, that close to 5 years at that 4-year mark, what you want to do is figure a way to private pay. Just try to come up with the income, like let's say it's your mother has to go in the nursing home, right? Try to use her income, anything that you can to limp along that last 12 months and privately pay so that you don't have to apply for Medicaid. You don't even knock on Medicaid's door until you hit that 5-year mark. So if you can use private funds to limp it along, you can do that to hit the 5-year mark. Then when you apply, what you put in that trust 5 years back is safeguarded. So ideally here what we're talking about is like the family farm. And when we say that, if we put your primary residence, that's the typical thing we do because it's very easy. That's not your spending money. It's usually a nice asset. You can still retain the right to live there.
Yeah.
You can keep your PVA homestead exemption on your taxes.
Stays. You don't have to worry about that.
We haven't had any trouble with that, in our location here in Shelby County. So it's usually not. It's the kind of thing we can move that asset and protect it for Medicaid purposes without actually having any ill effects on the individual that we're doing the planning for.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you're a little confused, that's okay. This is a complicated.
Medicaid is confusing.
It is a complicated process, but it's something that we have worked with for a number of years, and we can't say we specialize because we're not allowed. But we do focus our practice on this type of work.
Issues, yeah.
So if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us here at Berkley Oliver. Our phone number is 502-205-9005.
And with that, hopefully this kind of gave you some information on the Medicaid stuff, clarified some things for you. But we hope you'll tune in again with us next time on this podcast or on YouTube, wherever you're watching or listening.
Right.
For Legally Speaking, I'm Josh Berkley.
And I'm Amy Oliver. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.